Hey, so it's been a while since I made a video last. Um, as of right now, I'm recording from a new home, and I've been wanting to make a video for a while, but a lot of stuff happened, and that's kind of the purpose of this video. So on September 21st, there's a major storm that passed through my area, and a long story short, a tree fell through my parents' house and almost killed my dad. He's okay. Um, Miraculously, he's pretty well fine, other than a little bit of soreness and scratches. But just wanted to kind of go over this story for my memory's sake, um, and kind of share my experience with it. The purpose of this channel really is that to document things that happened in my life in the past, and I felt like this experience is just another one that I kind of want to document tastefully, as tastefully as I can anyway. So, in the evening of September 21st, there was a major storm that passed through. At the time, I had no idea that there was even supposed to be a storm. It kind of came very suddenly, hit very hard, very fast, and then was gone just like that. Everything that happened and then I'm going to show you, at least at the first chunk, happened within like 5 minutes. It's crazy. But basically, I think it was about 7:30. Um, we were watching the football game, Sunday night football, and my brother had just left, and I was at my dad's house with my wife, and my sister-in-law was there as well. And the storm started, and my dad pointed out, "Hey man, there's this crazy storm going on outside. Are your car windows rolled down?" I was like, "No." And then I looked out the window, and it looked like there was a hurricane. Like the wind, the wind that was going on was crazy. You could hear it once I tuned in. You could hear the whistling of the wind. You could see, leaves and tree branches starting to fly, small ones. And the rain was coming in sideways, as Forrest Gump would say. And my dad's like, "Holy cow." And then he kind of walked off. And as he walked off, I usually get a feel for storms. So kind of cracking open the front door or the window that I'm nearby and feeling how strong the wind is and hearing what it sounds like. And as I tried to open the front door, I remember the door almost flew open. It was that strong. So I kind of, was like, whoa, shouldered the door closed. And I remember thinking, like, after I looked out the window and then cracked open the door, I was like, man, this is pretty bad. We should get away from the doors and windows. And as I turned to, make my way down the hall towards the back bedrooms where my wife and my sister-in-law were and my dad, there was the loudest crashing bang I've ever heard in my life. It sounded like a cannon went off. And the whole house shook. And my first thought was, whoa, that was a huge, like, thundering or like lightning strike that was really close. Must have hit like a tree or something nearby. And then as my wife and my sister-in-law came running out of the back bedroom that they were in and screaming, and I realized, I put the pieces together. I was like, no, that was like a physical, like something hit the house almost. Or at least these are thoughts racing through my head. I was like, man, that was bad. But they came running out, and I immediately thought, where's my dad? They're here. They're okay. Freaked out, obviously, right now, but where's my dad? And I made my way to the back. I walked past them in the hallway. They're asking me questions, and all I could think and all I said to them was like, "Where's dad?" And then as I got to the back two bedrooms, they were in the left bedroom. The door was open, but the light was off. I later realized that power was disconnected from that bedroom for whatever reason. That bedroom's power went off. But anyway, I noticed that my parents' bedroom on the right, the door was slightly ajar with the light on. And as I went to open it up, felt like there was something against it, like resistance, and I had to shoulder the door open. And when I pushed that door open and I shouldered it pretty hard, this is what I saw. So immediately, I taking this in, And I noticed on the ground what I had to shoulder open was a tree limb. There was a huge tree limb in front of the door that I had to kind of skirt away from the door. And I remember when I got in here, I was, thinking, okay, my dad was back here. When he walked away from me, when he mentioned the rain, I knew he was going back to his bedroom. And the reason is because every time there is a major storm, my parents always get worried about our neighbor's backyard willow tree, this massive tree. Because for the past 10, 15 odd years, limbs have been falling off the tree during major storms and damaging, their property, our property, fences and stuff. Nothing major, but it's a menace, and it was massive. I think the tree, I don't know for sure, the tree was at least 90 feet tall, probably more like 100, and it just towered over the backyard, growing on a slant and slightly leaning kind of over our property and their property. And in the past years, they had trimmed it, not professionally, mind you. They trimmed it themselves and cut off limbs that were closer to the base, which probably had a factor in making this tree so weak and easy to topple over, because that's what happened. This entire tree, a limb didn't break off. The whole entire tree was uprooted because of the wind and fell right down the property line. And you'll see in some pictures, but it took out 3 sheds that the neighbors had in their backyards. They had them all lined up. It fell on all 3 of them. And it fell on our house in that back bedroom. So when I got into this bedroom and I looked, this is what I saw. And right where the window is, obviously you can see it's where most of the impact was taken. And this is a little while after. This picture was taken that same night. This is after everything happened. My brother came back and we were trying to mitigate the damage. It's still pouring rain at this point, so water is pouring through, and we're just trying to do what we can. But when I saw this scene, there was still several branches forking in from where the impact happened around the window. And I'm looking in this room and I'm like, where is my dad? He can't be in here. My first thought, like, there's no way he's in here. I don't see him. And then my brain puts the pieces together and I go, he is buried underneath all of this. So all of this stuff on the bed, like that insulation and that tree branch there, and anything else that you can see on the bed, plus the stuff on the floor in front of the bed, all of that was piled on top of my father, who was directly under the window when the tree fell through. And I remember when I realized, oh my gosh, he's buried under here, and I started digging and I saw him, I called for help. I don't think I've ever screamed and had a bigger voice crack, but I was like, help! And my sister-in-law immediately realized how serious it was. She saw me uncovering him, and she started calling, the ambulance, called 911. And my wife called my older brother, because at the time they were in the back bedroom when my brother left after the football game. So they still thought he was in the house somewhere. And because they couldn't see him, they were like, oh my gosh, where is he? He must be hurt somewhere too. So my wife was trying to call my brother and find out where he was. And my sister was calling emergency services to help my dad. And when I found my dad, when I when I unearthed him from underneath all of the wreckage, he was knelt down, hunched over, and he was unconscious. He was knocked out from the impact. Luckily and miraculously, I truly believe it's a miracle, he wasn't hurt, really, like, other than being knocked out. The wind knocked out of him, everything. Like, there's no scratches on the back of his head or his back. I checked, because when I found him, I was thinking, like, Dad, wake up, Dad, thinking he was dead at the start. Legitimately, I thought he was dead. But as I, gently nudged him and tried to, wake him up, he woke up. He was coughing. He was freaking out a little bit because he was waking up to this, and I was like, "Don't move," making sure his back and his neck wasn't broken. And I was asking him, I was like, "Can you move?" and all this. And he's like, "Yeah." And then as he woke up, he had this major adrenaline rush, and he kind of like, once I roused him, he stood up and he's like, "There's a tree in the house," and he like sauntered out of the bedroom, tripping and stuff, and he's like running around trying to figure stuff out. I'm like, "Wait, man, you should be dead." Trying to check him out. At first, like, I knew he was hurt, but I knew once he got up that he, like, nothing was life threatening. I thought at worst he's probably got like maybe a dislocated shoulder or a major concussion, but he was up and he was moving, and I was trying to follow him, and there's still this crazy storm going on outside, and he's realized that the neighbor's tree fell, and it was massive. So my dad's first thought once he got up was, "Oh my goodness, the neighbor's house must be destroyed." So he ran out and he was knocking on their door, and they weren't answering. The dogs were barking inside. We later found out that they were at the store when this happened, and in the next hour they came home and all of this stuff. But the main thing was my dad was alive, and it was that was the first miracle. Really, is this tree came crashing through, but my dad wasn't dead, even though he was right underneath of it. And when I opened that door and I realized, my brain put the pieces together, it was like, he is underneath all of that. My first thought was, he is surely dead. And once I found his body as I was digging him up, I was like, there, he's dead right there. I have to drag him out of this. And then he woke up, and that rush of, relief and fear now that he's awake. How much pain is he in? It was so much. It was crazy. First 5 minutes. I'm gonna show you some more pictures of everything. I'm gonna blur people's faces and stuff, but just to kind of show you everything that was happening. So it's another picture of the bedroom, and this is when firefighters got there. So who showed up first was there was the EMTs and the firefighters. Well, my sister-in-law said when she called, they're like, "Who do you need? Who do you need to send?" She's like, "Send everybody." But firefighters showed up, but quickly this whole storm turned into a major emergency for everyone, and they had to respond. Like, after they showed up 5 minutes later, they had to leave because there was a major fire that they had to respond to. But EMTs checked out my dad. That's me, trying to turn off the TV because, the TV was blasting football still. It's my father in the ambulance. When the EMTs first arrived and they checked him out, he was like, no, I'm not going. I'm fine. And luckily we convinced him to go because, he should be dead. And funny enough, the EMT, the girl there, she was the one asking questions, asking what's happened at the house. And when we showed her the room where he was when everything happened, she's like, "How is he not dead?" Like, that's crazy. But yeah, she was the one asking questions. That's me, talking to the EMT before he left, and my Crocs. I'm soaking wet at this point and running around trying to figure things out. So this is in the neighbor's backyard. This is the base of the willow tree where it uprooted. It's kind of hard to tell its size from this picture, but if you compare it to the shed right beside it, that shed was probably 8 feet tall. Its peak probably came to about 10 or 11 feet. Like, it's a pretty big shed, and it was completely smushed. And to the right of the tree base was another shed that, when the tree got uprooted, completely peeled the front of that shed up like a can. It's my dad getting me into the hospital. That's him in the hospital getting checked out. He had a whole neck brace on. Wasn't happy about that. This is the next day. So this is from my parents' backyard. This is the perspective looking through. So when the tree fell, it just completely uprooted that panel of the fence, and the whole thing got uprooted. Crazy. And that is the view from the top of the backyard towards our house. You can see the at least one of the limbs is resting on the top of the house. And another limb is overarching on the right side of the house. It's kind of hard to tell in this picture, but the gazebo that my parents had in the backyard, if it wasn't there, I truly think another limb of the tree would have forked its way through and stabbed through the back bedroom window where my wife and my sister-in-law were. And they said that they were standing right in front of the window when it happened as well. I fear they probably would have been in a bad spot had the gazebo not been there to stop that limb from swinging in. That's kind of, so that window there is in my parents' bedroom, right where my dad was standing, and that's just one of the limbs overarching there that fell in, but it was massive. That's the right side of the house. So that window there is the bedroom that my sister-in-law and my wife were standing in, and you can kind of see the branch on the ground is just the lower part of the branch, and then going up and above, laying on top of the roof, is the other part. But like the elbow of that limb is resting right on the gazebo. And if it wasn't there, I really think it would have swung right through that window and destroyed that room. This is kind of me standing right in that area. And that's just one of the branches that snapped off. That branch there that's broken is just like sitting right in the corner of the house, and the whole wall's peeled off and wedged, and that branch is just wedged in between. So the destruction was, absolutely major. And this is in the daytime. This is, the new skylight that we got after the tree fell through. Again, my dad was standing right there, and it's just crazy how much damage it caused. In the nighttime, after everything happened, my dad got sent to the hospital. It was my older brother and I at the house, and we had people calling. We were calling friends and family. I was calling people from church, saying, "Hey, this happened. I don't know what help we need, what we need to do." At the same time, we were trying to call insurance and find out what we were supposed to do. What we were supposed to touch and not touch. We ended up tarping off the room to prevent further water damage, because the whole entire bedroom was just saturated in water, and it leaked down to the basement. But just crazy. In the basement, this is the next day, so you can't quite see how much water there was, but that cooler and all those buckets were absolutely full of water. The amount of water pouring in when it was just absolutely pouring rain, it was absurd. And that whole area of the basement was just completely flooded. Funny thing is, unlucky and luckily, I guess, as far as insurance goes, unluckily, but as far as reality goes, 2 weeks before, the basement did not look like this. It was fully finished. Obviously, it was from the 70s. That was when it was last renovated, but it was a finished basement with a carpet and walls and everything. But in the last 3 weeks, my brother and my dad and I, we were doing demolition in the basement in preparation for renovations. And we had taken out everything all down to the studs, and we had done all this demo ourselves. So the basement was completely stripped. So the flooding was pretty manageable, major, but manageable. But because of this, insurance has been difficult with our, plea and explanation. Like, we were planning on doing all these renovations, and this all sets everything back. And anyone who has experience dealing with insurance of any kind knows that it's very frustrating and unrealistic, the kinds of expectations they have and methods that they follow. But yeah, it's been a pain, and it's still in process. Like, it's now the 30th of September, and my dad is still living in the house. Obviously, he's restricted to be just in the living room and the kitchen area, but he's still in the house. This is 2 weeks after this happened. It's everything moves so slow, and it's so frustrating. So that theme there on the wall, I guess there was a crack previously in the foundation, but it was patched however long ago. But when the tree came down, it's very hard to see. I'll see if I can zoom in here actually. When the tree came down, it re-cracked. You can kind of see right here. It re-cracked that same seam. And the amount of water that was pouring out of this crack was absurd. It was crazy how much water was coming out and pooling here. And it came, right through this part of the basement all the way to the other far right side. And I had to basically, guide the river of water down to the proper drainage in the basement. And this is along, the side of the house, our house, and the neighbor's house, where the mass of the tree trunk fell. Where you can see the branches lying here in the AC unit, this siding of the house goes back, at least another 15, 20 feet or so. But this is all just full of thick branches and tree trunk. It was just stuffed. Luckily, it fell where it did, because all of the damage that this tree caused was mainly to our house and the neighbor's 3 sheds. The only thing that was broken on their house was a little bit of the eaves trough that was lying right here. And one of their back windows was broken by a tree, a branch, sorry. Everything else in their house was pretty well fine. So they got up pretty lucky. So this is the view. This is me standing on our back fence, and you can kind of see just how the tree fell. So it was rooted up here, fell, absolutely smushed that first shed, peeled up this shed, obviously, and is kind of half resting against our fence. It kind of tweaked our shed, and it's damaged. It's not probably... once all of the tree limbs got removed by the tree guys, like, the shed is not sitting the same anymore. It's busted as well, but that's the main trunk, and it just falls all the way along the side of the house. And this major branch is what came through my parents' house and my parents' bedroom. It's kind of hard to see through the pictures how massive this is to scale, but this tree is huge. Like, this trunk's diameter, I don't even know. It must be at least 8 feet in diameter, if not more. Like, it was a massive tree. And this is, the neighbor next to our neighbor. Their pine tree split, so there's lots of tree damage. Sorry, I'm just going to scroll through these pictures a little fast. Some damage to our tree. There's a comparatively small branch that broke up here. So this is again, I'm standing on the fence, and this is that bedroom that my sister-in-law and my wife were standing in. So luckily, this branch didn't come through the window, but instead rested on top. The roof was slightly damaged, but nothing compared to the other bedroom. Come on, load. I was told to take lots and lots of pictures for insurance, and I did. All this stuff here was everything that I pulled off of my dad. So that tree limb, not the hose, but everything in that trash is like insulation and stuff. And then all of that ceiling drywall, that was all resting on top of my dad that I had to pull off of him. And this is the corner of the gazebo where that branch was resting and hit. And that branch there is the one that probably would have blown through the window if the gazebo didn't catch it first. This picture shows a little more. The next day, it started to rain in the morning, and this shows a little bit better how much water was coming out of the crack, that seam in the foundation that was reopened. That's just from, about 5 minutes of pouring rain, how much water seeped through and made a river in the basement that climbed all the way until I led it to the floor drain there. Here's just another picture of the tree trunk and just how it absolutely demolished that one shed. Just completely flattened it. And this is what things look like after the tree's been removed, or at least mostly removed. There's the neighbor's tree guys moving, so it's taken out most of the tree, and that's kind of what's left. The trunk is still there today. And this picture kind of gives a good view of the path of destruction that the tree left, you know, falling here, peeling up that shed, smushing this one, and demolishing this other one that was right in the corner of the backyard and kind of along the side of my parents' house here. So, sorry for the long photo gallery bit, but crazy. And we're super lucky, obviously. Like I really don't think I'm in a position to complain too much, all things considering. My father's alive, doing well, other than the frustration of now dealing with insurance and living in a dilapidated house for the most part. Like, it's just a miracle that he came out of this alive. And I truly believe it was a miracle. Too many coincidences to say that, you know, there wasn't a hidden hand watching over my family that night. And, you know, there's a lot of people that were affected from the storm. And the reason why I kind of wanted to make this is like these kind of storms don't really happen around here. Not like that. We don't really get tornadoes, at least not in the city. And like, it's just so surprising so fast. So this video here kind of does a good job of showing just how strong the winds was, what the storm looked like. Like, you don't see that around here. This looks like something from Florida during a hurricane.
It started to get pretty black, and then we felt
later a loud thud happened and a giant tree landed on my house.
Yeah, see, this guy knows how we feel.
To determine the full extent of the damage, he says last
Brutal.
night was a storm unlike he has ever witnessed.
Last night was pretty intense. Yeah, we took our dogs to the basement and hid with the candle.
Really dark, and then all of a sudden lightning started.
Yes, it did. This storm front is like the picture that my sister-in-law sent us the next day. Like, that's crazy. I know it, like, comparatively to other storms around the world might not be, but like, that's ridiculous. That, like, I've never seen anything like that over my house. I just wanted to make this video kind of to document my experience with that. And as of right now, I really don't think I'm in a position to complain. Like, my dad's alive. He's doing well, other than living in a dilapidated house until insurance puts him up somewhere, which I'm hoping happens this week. But like, I truly think he should have died in that. I don't know how he made it through, but you know, he threaded the needle on some of those branches and came out with just a scratch or two on his back. I don't even think he has a concussion. Like, at least he wasn't showing any signs of it. And they checked him out, said he was good. So I'm thankful to God that everything turned out the way it did, and we can rebuild, and we will, and we'll be fine. But just wanted to make this video to say that, and yeah, that's it.